It's my favorite segment of the Week 16 mailbag here on Steelers Talk, where I answer your questions on the black and gold as we are getting really close here to Sunday's matchup versus the Detroit Lions. You guys usually bring the heat with these questions, so I can't wait to get into it today. But if you haven't already, click that subscribe button to join the most interactive Steelers fan community anywhere here on YouTube. We have daily community posts for you guys to engage with. Also, we put out 2 videos a day where you guys can get into the comment section. We have these mailbags on our live shows every Thursday, so you guys can get your questions on the show. And then, of course, we have a lot of interaction with our fans on our live shows and on our watch parties every single Steelers game day. So if you guys want to join a community of over 100,000 Steelers fans that bleed black and gold, go ahead and click that subscribe button if you haven't already and join our family today. First question coming in from Quentin Chandler. Says, what about Mariota in 2026? Mariota had a falling out with Arthur Smith in Atlanta. If you remember, he quit on the team. He left the team mid-season with Arthur Smith as head coach. Unless Art isn't here next year, which I find extremely unlikely at this point. I think Tomlin will be back. I think Art will still be here. I don't think it's gotten to a point where they're going to make a change at OC. So I would say the chances of Mariota at 26 are extremely low just because of Mariota and Art's relationship. But in terms of like how good of a quarterback Mariota is, like Mariota's a pretty decent quarterback. He makes some really bad mistakes. I think he's like 37th in turnover-worthy play percentage this year, but he's really aggressive and he can run a little bit and he can attack the ball down the field. I think he leads the league in ADOT this year despite not having a ton of help at receiver this year. So, Mariota's an interesting guy, but an interesting option for somebody, but probably just not the Pittsburgh Steelers. $2 from Bernard Nixon says, who's the better QB, A-Rod or Big Ben? Overall, A-Rod, all right? In the grand pantheon of the sport, Aaron Rodgers, even though he hasn't won as many championships as Big Ben doesn't really touch the efficiency numbers A-Rod did, okay? So I think, at their peak, if you're picking a quarterback in a game for your life, I think you're probably picking Aaron Rodgers. Now, I know some Steelers fans will be like, Big Ben in a big game situation, nobody was better in his prime, and I completely hear you on that. 2 Super Bowl championships is more than one, right? But, at the end of the day here, I do think Rodgers was more efficient than Big Ben was in his career, and I think Rodgers probably ranks in the top 5 among quarterbacks all time, at the very least top 10. I don't know if Big Ben is at that level, although I think in terms of Steelers quarterbacks, Big Ben obviously usurps A-Rod. Like, if Rodgers might spend 2 years here, it might be 1. Big Ben spent his entire career here and won multiple Super Bowls for this team. So Big Ben, in my opinion, will probably always be the greatest quarterback in Steelers history, even more than Terry Bradshaw. Maybe that's just because I grew up watching Ben, but I will always consider Big Ben Mr. Steeler here in Pittsburgh, at least from my generation. $5 from Trumper 2025 says, should A-Rod come back next year if the season ends well? I think so. Listen, man, when you bring in a new quarterback, it's a lot of work to get on the same page with Arthur Smith and to get on the same page with your receivers. There's a reason why quarterbacks in the first year with their new teams don't have a ton of success. Now, there's exceptions, right? Matthew Stafford with the Rams, Tom Brady with the Bucs. Sometimes, you can get some really good success with a quarterback in your first year with him, but a lot of times, you see that year 2 jump. Where you get that comfortability being in a system for an entire year and then getting a whole offseason with guys that you've already worked with in a system that you've already had a season in, and you just kind of have a better feel for it, right? So if that happens next year, Rodgers comes back, he has that comfortability in the offense and with his weapons, and he has a full offseason with us this year like he didn't have this year. It could look even better than what it looks like right now, which would be a lot of fun here in Pittsburgh. So, as long as it's like a Matthew Stafford best case scenario doesn't come available, and I don't think it will, I think there's a very good argument to make that Aaron Rodgers would be the best possible option for the Steelers in 2026 on the free agency market. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. Should the Steelers bring back Aaron Rodgers in 2026? Simply give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at GLD. While I tell you about our sponsor today, simply give me a yes or a no down there in the comments. And with that, let's have word from our sponsor today at GLD. And let's be real, guys, buying men's jewelry absolutely sucks nowadays. Most of the time, you get stuck with low-quality junk that just snaps after a week. week, or it's insanely overpriced with the ridiculous markups. That's why I rock with GLD. You guys can use code CHAT right now for 50% off the entire GLD website at GLD.com. GLD has completely changed the game in men's jewelry. You're getting quality pieces that are built to last without breaking the bank, and unlike a lot of other companies, GLD only uses real gold. None of that cheap stuff. Every single stone is meticulously hand set, plus the proprietary production process makes sure you're getting the highest quality jewelry possible. You can literally see and feel the difference with GLD. You guys can take a look here at my Steelers pendant that I've been wearing all season long here on Steelers Talk. I'm not wearing it today, but I will be wearing it on Sunday for the Lions-Steelers watch party, just like I wear it for every single Steelers watch party this year. And you guys know the feeling when you get that new chain, right? It just hits different. It elevates your whole fit, the confidence, the compliments you get, the way you carry yourself, all instantly changes when you have a good-looking piece of jewelry on your neck. And GLD has everything, guys, from chains, pendants, rings, earrings, even fully iced-out watches if that's your style. Whatever your style, they've got you covered. And listen, don't just take my word for it, guys. Over 2 million customers and 50,000 five-star reviews back it up. Not to mention, it's worn by some of the biggest names out there in entertainment and sports, such as Justin Bieber, Micah Parsons, Tyreek Hill, Malik Neighbors, A$AP Rocky, and a ton more. The best part, every single piece from GLD is guaranteed for life. It's literally built to last the rest of your life, just like your love for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Work hard and change the game with GLD today. Right now, GLD is making holiday shopping easy for you because for a limited time only, new customers get an insane deal. Use code CHAT to get 50% off at GLD.com. That's 50% off with code CHAT at GLD.com. After your purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. And a big thank you to GLD for sponsoring today's edition of Steelers Talk. Jordan Gibson with a 2 says, what are the chances we keep all the vet players if we have a big run? I think the chances are really good. Next year, like we've been talking about, Cam Hayward is going to be going into his final season with the organization, and you better believe they're not going to start a rebuild and keep Cam Hayward on the team in his final year. Like if they start a rebuild this offseason, which, by the way, I think is pretty unlikely, but if they do, they're going to trade Cam Hayward away to a competitor and try and give him a chance to retire a champion because Cam deserves a chance at that. All right, but I think the more likely scenario is they try and bring back Aaron Rodgers if he wants to come back for another year. Keep Jalen Ramsey; he's under contract for multiple years. T.J. Watt's under contract for a number of years. You got a lot of players and a lot of vets on this team locked up for the foreseeable future. And I think that's the way they're going to go in 2026. They're going to continue to try and build this roster to try and win a Super Bowl in 2026. And I know a lot of fans want to completely rip this thing down to the studs and completely rebuild behind a rookie quarterback next year. I understand why some fans want to do that because they're stuck, because this team is frankly stuck in neutral and has been for a while. But hopefully this is the year this Steelers team can break through, at least win one playoff game to give this franchise some hope that they can take it to an even higher level in 2026 with all these veterans still on the roster. Kevin Reed coming in here with one says, if TJ and Herbig are out for a few weeks, how do you think Sawyer does in that stretch? Listen, man, this week's going to be a tough one for Sawyer. If he holds up nicely against Penei Sewell, maybe the best right tackle in the game right now, in his first ever NFL start, I will be massively impressed. All right, massively impressed if he's able to hold up against him. Okay, I think that's probably a mismatch that the Lions will exploit this week, and my guess is we're going to see a lot of runs to the right towards Jack Sawyer and towards Penei Sewell, their best offensive lineman. So we'll see what the Steelers do to try and give Jack some help there, but it's definitely going to be a tough matchup this week. Sawyer is not really somebody, in my opinion, that's like a dynamic rusher. I think he's more of like a rotational guy. I don't think he'll ever be like a true starter in this league. I think he'll be more of a good rotational third piece for a team. And we've seen him play, pretty reliably this year. But, it's one thing to be reliable backup and come in rotationally versus being an every down starter and having to go up against Penei Sewell. So that will be a hell of a test for him to show what he can do at this level. And I'm certainly looking forward to seeing what he can do because I like him a lot as a guy. So make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already, if you are a real one. Clicking that thumbs up icon, the real ones know helps out the channel because it tells the YouTube algorithm to recommend this video and all of our videos to other Steelers fans like yourselves around the globe. And the more people that like it, the more people will see it in their recommendations, and the more people that click on the video, the more people that watch, and the more people that watch, the more people sub and like and all that stuff. So this is really the best way to help out our channel for free, guys. So make sure you click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. Got one from Butch Evans here. Says, do you think that if we wrap up the North before Week 18, do you think we will see Will Howard against Baltimore? Yes, I do. Or at least we should, okay? Because Aaron Rodgers, he even said it this week, he's still not 100% on his wrist. And if there's nothing necessarily to play for, like, let's face it, if we have the division locked up by Week 18 going into that game, the chances of us being able to get the 3 seed and move up in the playoff standings probably pretty low. We probably have the number 4 seed in the AFC playoff picture locked up because the other teams ahead of Pittsburgh, they're a couple games ahead of the Steelers right now, okay? So I think right now you look at what's going on, and I think if we get to Week 18, division's locked up, all that stuff, I think you look at Will Howard and, maybe some other players here that haven't gotten a ton of playing time, getting a chance, and then maybe some of these players that you need for the postseason, guys like Jalen Ramsey and Cam Hayward and DK Metcalf and Aaron Rodgers and all these guys that you can't afford to get injured in that Week 18 game. You sit them for a week, let those veterans rest up. They're older players. They could use the week off. You could use it as your quote-unquote bye week, getting ready for the playoffs. And you can see what Will Howard's got. You're going up against a legitimate Baltimore Ravens defense that has played pretty darn well here in the second half of the season. And it would probably be a cold weather game, so you'd get a look at Will in cold weather. And it would be a chance for Will to show, hey, when Rodgers eventually moves on, you can maybe give me a shot and maybe, let me compete for the starting job at least with another quarterback when Rodgers eventually leaves. So I would be all for giving Will Howard a shot in Week 18. And there's some talk about if the Steelers lose this week and the Ravens win versus the Patriots, there's some talk about maybe giving Rodgers and the veterans a week off in Week 17 because that game becomes pretty much irrelevant in terms of the AFC North race. So there is some talk about getting Will Howard a game here to see what he's got. I'd be open to that, but it's got to make sense unless the Steelers have no reason to play their starters. They should be playing Aaron Rodgers every game they play. Then we get JT Clover. It says, do you think the Steelers will target down the field more with a injured Lions secondary, and can they with the injuries on the O-line? I believe so, JT Clover. I think if the Steelers are going to win this game, they're going to have to win a shootout. And I think they're capable of doing it, okay? Because I look at that banged-up secondary for the Detroit Lions, and they're not going to have Brian Branch. They got a lot of injuries. Amik Robertson is questionable for this week. Both of their starting safeties this week, and Kirby Joseph, and their backup strong safety, they're all questionable this week. So we'll see how many players actually play for them, but they play very aggressively. They play in your face, bump and run man coverage more than just about any team in the league. And if you have a bunch of injuries and you have a talent deficiency and you're going up against speedsters like DK Metcalf, MVS, Calvin Austin III, I think this could be a big week for downfield passing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We saw 2 weeks ago against Baltimore, if you're going to be in our face and you're going to try and press us and, play man and play single high coverage, we're going to throw the ball down the field on you. And, they showed that they're capable of doing that, specifically to DK Metcalf. So I think if they play aggressively this week with the secondary they have, I absolutely expect Rodgers to be bombing that thing down the field. And yes, even with the injuries, I still have a relative amount of confidence here that this O-line is going to be able to hold up there, JT. So who you got? Let me know down there in the comments section. PIT for Pittsburgh Steelers, DET for Detroit Lions. It's going to be an interesting matchup on Sunday, guys. I'm looking forward to the watch party with you guys this week. So let me know who you guys think is going to win down there in the comments section. That'll be it for this week's mailbag here on Steelers Talk. You guys always bring the heat with the questions, man. Some really good questions for me here today. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we do these mailbags every single week on our Thursday live shows. So if you guys want to join us for those and get your questions on a future Steelers Talk mailbag, click that subscribe button and join us every Thursday.